The 18 Strong Podcast, episode number 161 with Adam Kolloff, Director of Instruction at Liberty National Golf Course.
What I try to do is explain to somebody when I'm working with them is that, okay, these are the technical changes that we're going to work on, but you have to also understand there's some physical things that you can do with your trainer or whoever you're working with in order to expedite the process.
Welcome to the 18 Strong Podcast, where you get direct access to the world's greatest experts on training harder, practicing smarter, and playing better golf. Now, here's your host, Jeff Pellizzero.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the 18 Strong Podcast. I'm Jeff Pellizzero, your host. And once again, this week, we have an incredible guest with us in the wake of the President's Cup, which we just had 2017 at Liberty National Golf Course. We got to kind of see the U.S. team handily take it to the international squad, but it was a great event nonetheless to see first just kind of the national pride that is there both for the U.S. team and the internationals, playing for their country, their nations in some respect, but also just to see the talent that we have on the U.S. squad and what's to come for near Ryder Cup and further President's Cups in the next, several years, hopefully in the next couple of decades. And we have Adam on the show, who is again, the Director of Instruction out at Liberty National Course, to kind of share his experience for the week. And we then talk about several other just parts of the golf game and things that he works on with his clients when he's instructing out at Liberty National. We especially address, physical limitations and how do those hinder your golf swing? What do you need to do in order to kind of overcome those? And what's the best way to go about that when you're maybe working on swing changes or working on different drills? What do you tackle first, the body or the swing itself? And what are some tips for that? We also talk about training for speed. We see how far these guys are all hitting the ball these days, but Adam goes a little deeper on what training for speed can do for you personally, what it can do for your body, and how those changes can really affect your game and just your swing in general. And then we also talk about swing shape and different things that really kind of make up why you swing the way that you do, and maybe a few things that you can do to really kind of have an impact on what your swing shape is and the way that you swing a club. Just a little bit of background on Adam. He is a Golf Digest Best Young Teacher, obviously works out at Liberty National as the Director of Instruction out there. And prior to becoming a golf instructor, he competed professionally. And once he was finished with competing on a professional level, he became the instructor at Trump National Doral, working directly under Hall of Fame instructor Jim Mclean, and he now leads the Jim Mclean Golf School at Liberty National. He's worked with many tour players, including Keegan Bradley, Lexi Thompson, Gary Woodland, and in 2015, he even teamed up with Jim Mclean to publish a book called The Ultimate Guide to Trackman Swing Analysis, which was kind of the first of its kind, where it was outlining a system for using Trackman technology to really learn the golf swing and analyze that a little bit better. So I think you're really going to enjoy this interview. It was great talking to Adam just about the experience that he had this past week with the players, with the President's Cup, and just the whole thing in general out there in New Jersey. I do want to take a quick second to thank our sponsor of this week's episode, the PGA Tour mobile app. Once again, the PGA Tour has begun its fall swing. So the 2017 and 18 season has already begun, believe it or not. And of course, you know that my go-to is to use the PGA Tour mobile app to keep up to date with all scores and everything that's going on the course. You can check out stats, you can check out shots, you can check out videos, everything that you need to know about what's happening on the PGA Tour. So if you don't have the PGA Tour mobile app, you can go to the show notes page, which we always have a link to the PGA Tour mobile app page, or you can simply go to whatever carrier you have, whether that be Android, iPhone, whatever it is, wherever you find your apps, go to the App Store and look for the PGA Tour mobile app, and you'll be able to watch video, get stats, everything you need. All right, let's get into the interview with Adam Kolloff from Liberty National Golf Course. Adam Kolloff, welcome to the 18 Strong Podcast. Thanks for coming on, buddy.
Thanks, Jeff. Pleasure to be on your show.
Yeah, this is great. I mean, obviously, everybody's kind of on their President's Cup high, and with you being the Director of Instruction at Liberty National, the head of the Jim Mclean School there, I'm curious to hear, first a little bit of just the experience of the week, what that was like, and then maybe touch on a little bit of the background of you being at Liberty National.
Yeah, definitely. So it was quite an incredible week at Liberty National. It's a perfect golf course for the President's Cup. You can't get a better background with the Statue of Liberty and New York City. So there's a lot of American pride at this tournament, rightfully so. It was so much fun talking to all the players, all the coaches, even the caddies, watching these guys practice and play. And you could tell right away they're really jacked up for this tournament. And I think that's what made it even more special. So it was a little bit lopsided, but it was still a fantastic event, great for golf. And the American players, they're playing really well right now. And I think everybody saw that.
Yeah, I mean, I think we all kind of expected it to be, a little lopsided on the American side, but just from what I saw and what I heard, they just played phenomenally too. So it was even more so of a lopsided event until Sunday. Guys kind of gave a few points back. How much interaction did you actually have with the players? You mentioned how cool it was to talk with them a little bit, and how much interaction did you have with Mr. Tiger Woods throughout the week?
I spoke with a lot of the players. I had some good conversations with Jordan Spieth, Justin Thomas. I had a great conversation with Mike Thomas, Justin Thomas's father, and that was a lot of fun to catch up with him. Didn't get a chance to talk with Tiger Woods, but it was great to see Tiger out there supporting the team. I saw him take a few putts with Matt Kuchar's putter, which was very interesting. I even saw Matt Kuchar trying to show him his grip.
Really?
I thought that was interesting. But it was a lot of fun seeing Tiger. He adds a new level to any event that he shows up at, and he was a great assistant captain, and it was really cool to see him there.
Yeah, that's got to be pretty cool. And I'm sure having those guys, having him, just staying in their corner, that's got to be such an experience for them. What was the overall feedback from the players about the course? I know that in the past, before the changes were made, things like that there was some constructive criticism. What was the feedback after this event?
I think it was perfect for match play. There's some things about the course that the pros don't love, but for a match play format, it's a perfect golf course. There's a lot of things that can happen. And, where Liberty's located, you can't ask for a better location for the President's Cup. So there was positive feedback. They have made a lot of changes since the very first Barclays in 2009. And so the first, or the primary cut of rough is only a couple inches compared to 4 or 5 inches. That's a big difference. They've flattened a lot of the greens. So there's a lot of changes that they did make, and the course is a lot more playable than it used to be. And for a match play format, it's perfect. It was a great event.
What was the reason? I haven't really heard much about this. I know they changed up the holes, like what hole they started on. What was the reason for the mix up of the holes? Because I know that's not normally how the members play it.
Right. So the whole idea was to get the pros playing marquee holes on the water, holes 14 through 18. And so matches tend to finish early on hole 14, 15. So what they do is just essentially push them up to hole 5. So they were starting on hole number 5 so that when they get to those marquee holes, the match was still going on. That's where a lot of the hospitality tents, the corporate tents were. So it was more for it made for TV, but I think that added to the excitement. And I think the route was perfect for the tournament. You have a very difficult starting hole. I don't know if you saw it on TV. The guys were hitting to a very narrow fairway. You got water on the left. You got out of bounds on the right. And the fairway is only about 30 yards wide. So it's a great opening hole. The members would not love to be starting on that hole, but I thought it was great for the tournament. And it made it more fun watching these guys play on the back nine. You got to see them play those holes, that little par 3 on the water, hole 18 for the members. So for them, it was hole 14. So I think it made it great for the event.
Yeah, it was cool. It was awesome to see on TV, and the backdrop, like you said, was just phenomenal. So how did you end up at Liberty National? Give us a little background on you. Congratulations on 2016-17 Golf Digest, I think, Young Teachers Award. What brought you to Liberty National, and maybe where were you beforehand?
Yeah, thank you very much. Let's back up a little. I played golf in college. After college, I played professionally for a few years on the Gateway Tour, a couple other mini tours in South Florida, and then wasn't doing as well as I wanted to. And I got into teaching on the side, and I started teaching a lot more. And I got hooked up at the Jim Mclean Golf School at Doral, and quickly became Jim Mclean's personal teaching assistant. So I did that for a year, and that fully immersed me into teaching. And that was quite an experience I'll never forget. And Jim taught me a lot about becoming a teacher, how to teach players of all ability levels. So it was a lot of fun for me. And then this job opening at Liberty National came about in 2013. So I've been at Liberty National for 5 seasons. We've had the Barclays in 2013, which was the first year when I was there, and then the President's Cup this year.
Very cool. You've got a pretty incredible looking setup. Obviously I see a lot of your videos on Instagram, and you've got the hitting bay looking out into the driving range. You got a bunch of different toys out there. I always love seeing you, messing with some different things and working with your clients. And you mentioned that
Yep.
you work with guys and girls of all levels, all abilities. You've worked with professionals, you work with amateurs, and you and I kind of before the interview, we bounced around a few ideas on topics to chat about. And what I love about some of your instruction that I see online is you really work on not just golf stuff, but you work on the person's body and what they're doing and how they're moving. And I know that one thing that you're really good at is addressing their different physical limitations and figuring out, what's going on with their body or what's not going on with their body that is then correlating with what's going on in their golf swing. Can you give us an idea of how do you first kind of address those things or find those things, and where do you go from there?
Yeah, definitely. So I'm TPI certified, and that was made a big impact on how I teach. I think addressing the physical, not only the technical, is such an important aspect. And I work with a lot of golfers that value playing good golf, and that's actually one thing that has amazed me. How many golfers really love this game, and they value so much playing it well. And if they could understand the importance of addressing physical limitations, I think it's something you can't overlook if you're trying to play better at golf. If you really want to lower your scores and you want to reach your potential, you got to understand if there's any physical limitations. Even if you're not feeling pain, I still think it's important for someone to go through an assessment and just learn some things about your body, your strengths and your weaknesses. So what I would recommend for golfers is getting assessed and learning more about your body. Look at Justin Thomas. This guy has done a lot of work on his body. He's a classic example. He had lower back pain in college. He worked on loosening up his hips. And he claims that this not only helped him hit the ball better, but a lot farther. He said it's added 6 to 10 miles per hour of clubhead speed, which is significant. So I just think anybody could get a lot out of working on the physical, not only the technical parts of the game.
We'll get kind of specific here. What are some of the bigger things that you see? I would imagine the population that you see up at Liberty National, while you have non-members coming in for lessons, I'm sure you're also giving a lot of lessons to the members there, which I would assume are a lot of business type and guys and girls that have been in the business world, maybe not so much focused on the physical part of the body. And what are some of the things that you see that are pretty common, and maybe even some fixes that you guys have worked on?
Yeah, of course. The golfers that I work with are pretty much sitting all day, at their job. So typically they're going to have tight hips. They're not going to be able to rotate. So maybe their T-spine is tight. So those are some things that I'm always suggesting them to work on. So in the golf swing, you're going to see a lack of rotation in the backswing. Maybe their trail arm doesn't externally rotate enough. So you see, the club is across the line, or it's in a bad position with a cupped left wrist, and all these things can cause a steep downswing, cutting across the ball, getting a lot of pull shots or slices. So what I try to do is explain to somebody when I'm working with them is that, okay, these are the technical changes that we're going to work on, but you have to also understand there's some physical things that you can do with your trainer or whoever you're working with in order to expedite the process. And if you do these things, we're going to start to see the results that you want. And so I keep reminding them of these things because, if they get frustrated in the lesson and I know that they're just not nearly getting the amount of rotation that I want them to get, or whatever it is that we're working on, part of it's technical, but, there's this physical side that plays a big role just as much.
I would imagine that's tough to balance out and figure out, okay, I know I need to work on this person's body, or I know they need to work on their body, I should say. But I also want to help them get better today. I want to help them with their golf swing. I want to help them with their golf game. How do you balance that out if you know that there's something that they need to physically work on, but you know that you could probably help them with a little bit of a tip or something in their swing? How do you do that without just giving them another Band-Aid trick or something that's just going to work for that lesson?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's a tough one because you have to come up with something for them, and a lot of golfers might not address their physical limitations that could be causing some of the swing faults. So you just stick with some basic fundamentals. You work on some setup. Maybe it's a grip change. Maybe it's a strengthening the grip a little bit more than you might recommend for somebody else, or maybe it's something a little bit, a tweak in the alignment, helping somebody get a little more open, or flaring the front foot a little bit more so it helps them rotate a little bit more. So I think there's some tweaks that you can make, and everybody's different. And so it's important to learn as much about your student as much as possible, and then they're going to give you all the information you need on how to attack the problem. But yeah, there's ways around it if they're not doing everything that you want them to do to get better.
Yeah, it's something that we kind of discussed a little bit was the fact that, people know that they have these physical limitations or after being assessed, or, we go through some of these processes and people find these. What do you tell the person? Because inherently we're all lazy, right? And I think we all want to do as little as possible in order to get the job done. But how do you stress to them that, okay, there's certain things, and I know, you interact with some of the guys that have been on the show, Frank Duffy, Kirk Adams, those guys, and I know that you're very in tune with some of the processes and exercise and things. How do you really encourage these people? Like, okay, these are some specific and simple things that you can do, or do you refer them out to somebody, or how does that work?
Yeah, I try to hammer them as much as possible on the fact that if they really value playing good golf, that they're going to have to address these things. And just look at Justin Thomas and look at other examples on tour. You're going to have to tell them we can't get them looking exactly like these tour players, but you want to tell whoever you're working with, if they're interested in playing their best golf, which everybody is, or at least improving at golf, you got to kind of take a holistic approach. And so you got to look at the technical and you got to look at the physical. And let's face it, playing good golf is so much fun. Playing bad golf is terrible. It drives us crazy, but the good golf that we play is really so much fun. That's why we're all in this. And so I really try to stress that if you want to play good golf consistently, this is what you got to do.
Yeah, it's so important just to, like everything, it's the simple little things that we do consistently over long periods of time that actually work, not bouncing from gimmick to gimmick or Band-Aid to Band-Aid. Another thing that I know that you're big on is working on speed with your golfers, training for speed, and not just for the fact of hitting a ball farther, because obviously we all want to do that, but why is training speed in the golf swing such a big part of what you work on?
Yeah, that's a good question because I love working on speed myself and helping other golfers work on their speed. I want to share a story on how now it's kind of shaped my whole teaching. I was doing a lot of speed training myself over the winter, and I started helping I've been speed training for many years, but I've been doing it in a certain way over the past winter, and I've been sharing this with my students. And I started filming them while they're doing these speed training protocols. And I saw some amazing things on video. And so I came up with a couple conclusions watching the changes take place while they're doing these during the speed training. Number one, swings completely transform when there's no ball on the ground or when there's no ball on a tee. It's really amazing to watch somebody swing like a super speed training club when they're not hitting a ball. You start to see a lot more of these tour player-esque moves in the golf swing. And so that was amazing to me to see this. And for the student, they love it, because then they're like, wow, I really look like that. So I challenge everybody to try that. If you do any speed training, film yourself while you're doing it. You'll be surprised what you look like. And then the second thing is, I learned that when you practice speed, it really engages your body, and in a surprisingly good way. You start to use your entire body to create speed, and I think things start to happen, like this kinetic change starts to take place in your swing. You start to load certain segments of the body in the right order to create more speed without even thinking about it. I've seen a lot of golfers create a lot more separation at the start of the downswing and during speed training swings. So, there's a lot of these things that happen when you're speed training, and then the challenge is then getting them to do this with a ball, and it takes a lot of work, but it's helped a lot of golfers that I've worked with. And if they can sort of get over this this idea of hitting that ball or being very conscious of that hit instinct in the golf swing, they start to make these changes, and things start to look a lot better. Their body starts to move much better and much more efficiently.
I haven't really processed that, but I've noticed it just kind of anecdotally that when I have guys swinging, we use the super speed golf clubs, which I know you're a big fan of, and I have them swinging. You just notice a lot different action, more athletic movements, as opposed to whenever they're thinking or standing over a ball. And I kind of equate it to, you see a guy do a perfect practice swing with no ball, and then you see him stand up to hit a ball, and it's like his swing kind of totally contorts. Aside from using the overspeed training principles, the super speed golf clubs, are there any other things that you do specifically when you yourself are working on speed, or when you're working on speed with your clients, or is it typically more of the super speed golf protocols?
I do a lot of mobility work. The guys at Par 4 Fitness have been great. Frank and Joe, they've helped me with a lot of things, trying to improve my mobility and helping other golfers improve their mobility. I do a ton of kneeling swings. I really believe kneeling swings is where it's at for generating speed.
Why is that? Can you explain that? Because I think a lot of people will see those kneeling swings and they're like, man, isn't that going to hurt? Isn't that going to hurt my back? But why has that been so beneficial for you?
So I don't discredit the lower body and how to use the lower body in the golf swing. But I think that the quickest way and the most practical way to get more speed is doing kneeling swings. What it does is it helps you strengthen those outer segments of the chain. At the wrist, at the shoulder, and using your core. These are also very important in generating speed. So I work with a lot of golfers, and I can recall helping them use their lower body so much better in the golf swing. I remember just not seeing more results, more clubhead speed. And I've been doing a lot of kneeling swings myself, and I remember Greg Rose talking a lot about doing kneeling swings at a TPI seminar in California. And I suggested this to a lot of the golfers that I work with, and they've been doing this, and they've gotten a lot more speed because of it. So that's just one thing that I love doing myself, and I think it's a great thing for other golfers to do to get speed right away.
That's awesome. I haven't put as much stock in the kneeling swings, and partially just based on space in the location that I'm using the sticks usually, but it makes a lot of sense. Strengthening the shoulders, the wrists, the elbows, all of that stuff as well, and you're kind of figuring out how to generate speed without using the powerful lower body. So then when you are able to tie in the lower body, it makes sense that would also just kind of rev up the chain as well.
Exactly. Yeah, you could think of like your lower body as an accelerator. And so once you train the upper half, you train those outer segments, and then you tie in the lower body, you really can generate a lot more speed.
Let's take a second here to thank our feature sponsor for today's episode, the Super Speed Golf Club System. Super Speed Golf, if you don't know of it yet, is the #1 overspeed training device used on the tour by both the men, the women, the PGA Tour, LPGA, Web.com, European Tour, whatever tour it is, they're using the Super Speed golf clubs. And amateur golfers, thousands of amateur golfers, are also using these clubs in order to gain more distance, gain more speed on their swing. And as you'll hear in this interview with Adam, he talks about the importance of training for speed and what it does for your golf game, not just because of the distance, but how it definitely helps your body, improves the strength in your body, and allows you to have more control, more efficiency in your swing. So if you haven't checked out the Super Speed golf clubs, go to superspeedgolf.com. And when you're ready to order yourself a set of clubs, be sure to use the code 18STRONG to get your discount. All right, let's get back to Adam. And just to give the audience an idea of what kind of speed are we talking about? Let's say, what do you find is kind of typical range of speed for some of your clients, some of your golfers that you're working with? Let's just say kind of the average weekend golfer, maybe a little bit more competitive golfer. What would you say is kind of their typical swing speed when they start, and what kind of increases have you seen?
So I've seen some dramatic changes. This one golfer comes to my mind who started at low 90s, and now he's mid 100s. His peak speed's 113.
Wow.
I've seen golfers make consistently at minimum a 5 mile per hour increase in speed, but it takes work. You can't expect to get speed overnight. A lot of golfers that I've worked with try to do it every single day because they think more the better. And you have to be very careful. You can't be doing speed training every day. I always recommend every third day. And if you stay consistent and you just do a program that takes you 10 minutes and you do it every third day for 6 weeks, I guarantee you're going to get more speed. And it's a lot easier, a lot more simple than you think.
Yeah, I think you can't not get faster if you do that consistently. I think you're exactly right. All right, I want to talk a little bit just about golf instruction and the swing in general. One of the things that we mentioned back and forth was just swing shape and, how the body impacts how our swing looks, how our swing feels, and basically the way we hit the ball. So can you kind of explain a little bit, physically, what kind of dictates different styles of swing?
Yeah, definitely. You can also think of swing shape as swing dynamics, but we can just mention swing shape, and there's a lot of factors that will dictate somebody's swing shape, and it's good to think about these things because if you're trying to get better, if you're trying to lower your scores, you want to learn about how you swing, and you want to know about the factors that are contributing to your swing. So I'm going to go over a few of the things that are determining your swing shape. Number one is your sports background. So whether you played baseball growing up, you played tennis, or you didn't do anything, that's going to contribute to what type of swing that you're going to have. Also, concepts that were told to you. If somebody told you, keep your left arm straight, keep your head down, hold your finish, whatever it is, you've probably thought about that so many times that concept got ingrained in your swing. So you kind of have to be careful of, who you're listening to, especially if you're beginning golf. The third thing is physical characteristics. These are your physical attributes. Your how tall are you? How much do you weigh? What's your flexibility and what are your limitations and things like that. They play a huge role, more than people think, in determining your swing shape. I can't tell you how many people I work with, and when I show them something on video and they're just like, oh man, I just have no idea why I keep doing that in the golf swing. And then I'm like, well, let's just go through a couple of these TPI assessments. And, right away, I'm like, listen, this is what's going on. So this is how we can work on it, but you got to go also work on this. So the physical side obviously is important. And then club face angle and where that club face is in the swing. That can determine swing shape more than people think. So I'll give you a classic example for the club face angle. Imagine the classic golfer who comes over the top. He's cutting across the ball. He's scooping at impact. His left wrist is breaking down. So he's producing kind of like a slice or a pull slice. This golfer typically is just opening up the club face too much in the backswing. For whatever reason, if they're rolling the lead arm or they're just taking it way inside, the wrist is cupping. You can make a dramatic change in that golfer's swing just by focusing on the club face angle at takeaway, for example. So, a quick tip for someone out there who's listening, focus on where the club face is at halfway back. That's when the shaft is level with the ground in the backswing. Look at the club face. You actually don't want that club face toe up. You might see some pros that have a toe up club face, but I'm telling you, for the majority of golfers who are not playing a ton of golf, that want a little more power in the swing, check your club face angle at halfway back. Try to get it a little toe down. This is going to put you in a better position. You're going to be able to get a better sequence coming down. You're probably going to compress the golf ball a little bit better at impact. So that's just one example of something somebody can do fixing their club face.
You're making me want to go hit balls right now because I actually played this morning. Rare opportunity to play on a Thursday morning, and you just described a couple of my shots. And so I'm guaranteeing that
Perfect.
If I would have looked at my club position there in the backswing, that I probably would have been rolling open a little bit. What about, so you mentioned the sports background. What with, whether you played baseball or tennis or whatever, you mentioned those two sports specifically. What are some of the things you see with different sports backgrounds versus maybe not playing many sports growing up?
Well, baseball players and tennis players are very interesting to work with. I think they understand how to use their bodies well. Some of the positions might get out of whack. I'll give you an example. Tennis players tend to thrust their arms out away from them. Baseball players too, because they're hitting a ball out in front of them. So it's the same for baseball and tennis. So in the golf swing, when you have them on video, you tend to see their arms moving too far away from their body. And then at impact, they sort of line up the shaft and the left arm. So there's no angle between the shaft and the left arm if you're looking at a down the line view. That might be confusing, but a lot of baseball players and tennis players will sort of line that up, and that can lead to a lot of problems in the golf swing. That's one example that I see with like a baseball player, a tennis player. But generally, they know how to use their body very well and create power in the swing, and it definitely helps. I think a lot of people come to me and they say, "Oh yeah, I've played tennis, I've played baseball, and I probably have so many bad habits that are gonna, make it really difficult to learn the golf swing." And I try to tell them, no, this is awesome. We're gonna pick up this quickly, much more quickly than somebody else. But I have to say, I have worked with golfers that have played no sports growing up, and they've picked up the golf swing, and they're swinging the golf club very well. So I don't think it's like an absolute advantage. There are big advantages to it, but anybody can learn the golf swing. It doesn't matter what your background is. Anybody can learn the golf swing.
Well, and is it your experience that, sure, it's important to learn how to swing the club, but it's also very important to learn how to play the game itself as far as score-wise. And I kind of find myself in that position that, I can hit good shots, but consistently I don't hit good shots, and also just playing the game smart, like around the greens and practicing that kind of stuff. So do you find
Yep.
that the golfers tend to tinker too much on the mechanics of their swing as opposed to learning to actually play the game?
Yeah, 100%. It happens all the time. Golfers, they are focused too much on the swing. You see a lot of press about what Tiger's working on with his swing or what other players are working on with their swing, and it makes a lot of us think that we got to do the same thing. But if you watch these guys play, I'm talking about the PGA Tour players, you're going to see them hit the ball all over the place. On TV, it's a little biased because you see only the best players. You see like the guys who are in the lead. They're hitting the fairway, they're hitting the green, they're making the putts. But if you went to an event and you saw PGA Tour players up close, you would notice they're making big mistakes also. They're going to hit it out of bounds. They're going to snap hook one. And it's how they recover. They recover so well. They have a lot of confidence in their game for good reason because they're practicing all the time. But you know, to say more about like playing the game, these guys are experts at doing that. And so that takes there's a talent for exactly doing that. And it takes a while. You have to play a lot of golf to learn how to play. You got to get out on the golf course. You can't live on the driving range. You can't take too many lessons. You got to get out there and play. And that's where you're going to learn it.
Yeah, I think that's something that's cool about the President's Cup or the Ryder Cup. We actually get to see more shots from these guys, all of the guys, because they're covering more of each individual, more of the matches. And so we got to see some of these mishits, and you didn't see all the perfect shots every single time. And so it almost caught me off guard a couple times when I saw a guy hit a ball, and I was like, whoa, where'd that come from? But I think we don't realize that they do that, every now and then as well. They just know how to recover it and get back. Before we wrap up here with our final questions, I had just a couple other things I wanted to ask. I know you're with PXG, and you're the first guy that I've had on the show that is with PXG, and I want to know what's the deal with these clubs, and why has this kind of stormed the market, and what's different about the PXG clubs that has gotten all the hype?
Well, PXG is phenomenal, and I'm on staff, so you would think they told me to say that, but I really believe they're great clubs. Yes, they're expensive, but if you really love a good club, you're going to love PXG. What I think is different about the club is it has a perfect balance of the forgiveness and feel. A lot of clubs that are out there that are forgiving, you don't get that nice feel at impact, that soft feel at impact. Typically, if you're playing a game improvement club and you hit a little bit on the toe or heel, you might not even notice. It just has the same feel across the face, kind of a clunky feel, hard feel. So PXG is totally different. They've really figured out how to make a soft feeling iron with a ton of forgiveness. It's getting a little more distance for pretty much everybody that tries them. So I've been playing them for 2 seasons. I got nothing but great things to say about them. I think the driving irons that just came out are unbelievable. I think they're going to change the game for long irons, and the woods as well. I think it's a fantastic company. So yeah, I highly recommend anybody at least trying them.
Yeah, I was just curious. And Adam didn't ask me to ask about PXG or anything like that. I was just curious. I haven't hit any. I don't know any of my clients or anybody that has them, and so I was just very curious. And knowing that you're on staff there, I wanted to ask that. I also want to ask about the heliport at Liberty National. How frequently is that used? And do you see a lot of guys utilizing that thing?
Yeah. I'd say this season, it was probably used almost 30 times, I want to say. Wow. Which is a lot. So we have some members that will use the helipad, and it's quite a scene when somebody comes in. It's just really cool at Liberty. It's such a unique place, being so close to the city. And Liberty, of course we have a helipad,
Right.
We have a private ferry that goes back and forth to the city. So it's just the greatest place for members. They love it. And Yeah, I've seen the helipad used many, many times this season.
That's awesome. Very cool. All right, my man, it's time for the closing questions here, which I know you know are coming. So first and foremost, got to ask the Caddyshack or Happy Gilmore question.
So I'm a Happy Gilmore guy. That's more my speed. Adam Sandler, he's the man. So I'm going with Happy Gilmore.
Great. Love it. All right, if you had to pick a walk-up song, or you could pick a walk-up song to the first tee box at Liberty National there, what's your walk-up song?
I'm going Sure Shot by Beastie Boys. And there's a reason for that, because Ron Kaspersky reached out to me early in the year to do a Golf Digest shoot. And the inspiration for the shoot was that song, Sure Shot by the Beastie Boys. And I started listening to that song, and it reminded me how great a song it was. So I'm going with Sure Shot. That's my walkout song.
Now, a little background. When I saw that article in Golf Digest and saw you in the Beastie Boys getup, in the magazine, I was like, all right, Adam and I, we're gonna get along very, very well. So we're gonna get, and that's I sent you a message that day after I read that. I'm like, all right, let's get him on the show.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Too much fun. The Beastie Boys are definitely my favorite. All right, if you had a chance to play 18 holes of golf with anyone in the world, past or present, who would it be, and where would you play?
Is this a dream foursome, or are we one person?
I typically go one person, but if you've got a foursome in mind, I'm going to let you throw it out.
Wow. Okay. Well, the one person is my grandfather. He's passed away a long time ago. He loved golf. He's an inspiration to me. He was a rocket scientist, was the director of research at NASA, deputy under Secretary of Defense. He invented the heat shield. A lot of amazing things that this guy did. And I think if he saw what I'm up to in golf, he would love it. And so that's one guy I'd love to play golf with. The other two that are Bobby Jones and Ben Hogan. I don't think you can go wrong adding those guys to the foursome.
No, definitely not. Where would you pick to play?
I mean, Pebble Beach. I haven't even played it, but I think that's where I'd have to go.
I don't think you can argue with that one.
You can't go wrong with Pebble Beach.
Yeah, I have yet to play it as well. I just was watching some footage on TV. I think it was yesterday, and it just looks amazing, incredible. All right, buddy, what has you most excited with everything you've got going on up there at Liberty National, the golf school? What are you most excited about as we kind of tail out of 2017 into 2018?
I'd say what I'm most excited about is working with the young kids that I mentor and help with their golf games. That's so much fun for me when I'm working with kids that are, in high school, or kids that are preparing to go to college, who are in college. They're making big changes and they're making big decisions in their life. And so I love working with those kids. I'm also really excited about where golf fitness is going. Your podcast is amazing. I think you do an incredible job, and I love listening to your podcast, getting tips from the experts across golf fitness. So I'm really excited just to see what's next in that space.
Cool. Well, I appreciate the kind words. What's one last piece of advice you have for the 18 Strong community?
One piece of advice, I would say, if you practice, a great way to practice is using impact tape. It might sound different than something you've heard, but I'd say go to the range, get a bucket of balls, hit 5 shots with every club in your bag, and use impact tape, and then call it a day. I think that's a great drill anybody could do. You're going to get so much feedback seeing where you're exactly on that club face you're hitting the ball. And you might realize something during that practice session that maybe it was a tweak that you had to make in order to get that sweet spot contact, and that made all the difference. So I always suggest this to my golfers. I think it's a great tip for anybody of any ability level.
Great advice. I'm going to have to try that next time I go out to the range. All right, my man. I want to thank you again for taking the time to come on the show. I love what you're doing. I love all the videos you're posting, the different tips and drills and exercises, and how you're incorporating the fitness side and the body into your instruction. So I appreciate you doing that, and I love watching it, so keep on doing it. I know that a lot of people are already following you on Instagram. If you're not following Adam on Instagram or social media, go do that for sure. But again, thanks for taking the time, and I'm sure we'll be touching base very soon.
Thanks, Jeff. Pleasure to be on your show.
I want to thank you for joining us this week on the 18 Strong podcast. And if you want any more information on Adam Kolloff or his teaching, his instruction, or anything that's going on with the Jim Mclean golf schools or just Liberty National Golf Course in general, just go to the show notes page, which is at 18strong.com/Adam-Kolloff, or look for episode number 161 on 18strong.com. Also, be sure to go check out our episode sponsors. We have links to them in the show notes as well. The PGA Tour mobile app, Super Speed Golf Clubs, both great resources that I use on a very regular basis. We would love to connect with you after the show, outside of the show, in our Facebook group, the 18 Strong Movement. So check us out over there. And if you haven't had a chance to leave a rating or review on iTunes, we would greatly appreciate it. It really helps spread the word on the show. 5-star rating is always good, but we'll take what we can get. If you have been listening to the show for a while and you haven't had a chance to leave a review, we'd greatly appreciate you doing that. All right, we will catch up with you next week with another great guest and another great episode. Train hard, practice smart, and play better golf.
Thanks for listening to the 18 Strong podcast at www.18strong.com. And remember, train hard, practice smart, and play better golf.